Wow.
You think of that, buddy?
Wow.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is our premiere show, Recruiters with No Limits.
None.
Right, no limits. So if you're watching out, you got questions, reach out in the comment bar and let's get started. So we have a great guest today, all the way from Chicago, John Merve from B Power Staffing.
Welcome.
Woo!
Chicago. Are you staying warm?
You know what? First of all, thanks for having me. We're at 40 degrees. I moved here from Miami a year ago, so I never thought I'd say this, but like after 5s and 2s and -5s, 40s feel like, I'm like, this is fall. This is amazing.
Miami to Chicago. Wow. What a big difference from palm trees to snow, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to deep dive in everything. Once again, this is our premiere show, so check us out every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless me and John are busy, but we'll make it up to you some other time that week. Right, John?
That's right.
You got it. So, Merve, we're just going to jump in a little bit about you since you're our special guest today. Tell us a little about yourself, B Power Staffing, and what's going on right now.
Yeah. Well, so it was really interesting how I got into this, but I knew a company. It was the owner of a really large company, and he was just complaining about not being able to find good candidates. It's just like, the pay is good. They're making, 6 figures and everything. All the benefits are good, but it's like there's no motivation. And he just would always couldn't keep someone to stay on. And because it was just like a hassle. And then at that time, not to get a little sappy, but I just got a divorce. So I was a single mom, and I was doing a big transition from Miami to Chicago. And my ex-husband used to own his company. So I always ran a company. I worked with him, but it's not like a real experience where you work with someone. So it was so hard for me to find a job. And let me tell you, yes, maybe I didn't have the sales experience or the recruiter experience, but I knew, when I was hearing other people trying to hire people, I had way more determination and motivation than them. And sometimes it's a good match, and you just got to have someone believe in you. So that company that hired me, and they're like, I got promoted. I started at $15 an hour, and I was making almost 6 figures in 4 months. And this was someone that I tried to get a job for 2 years, but no one just took that chance with me, because they're like, oh, you've been married for 10 years. And I didn't lie in my resume. I'm not a liar. And I told them that. So that's why I'm like, you know what? There's so many people out there that really want to work. And then there are business owners that are willing to pay the money. They just want people that want to work. If you have passion, you'll be successful. And if your workers are successful, the business owner will be successful. It's a match. So that's why I got into it.
I love that. And you know what I love about it? Like I said, you didn't lie on your resume, and you're a people person. And I think John will agree on this. This day and age, yes, you do have to have experience, but you know what? They'll train you now. If you have the will and desire, they can train you in a lot of different fields.
It's all about what you were saying, Merve, the work ethic. You can't teach work ethic. And if you've got someone like yourself that's willing to come in and put in the sweat equity and make it happen, the sky's the limit. So many people want it handed to them, and they don't last very long. Those that come in and just make it happen are the ones that end up being the most successful.
And that's what it was. When I first got that job, I was $15 an hour, and a temp agency put me in there. And the owner of the temp agency wanted to hire me. She stole me. She's like, actually, can you work for us? Because she obviously works with a lot of people and candidates. And she's like, I see the fire in you. She's like, and it's like, you're hungry. And, you can find anyone. And when they're like, you're going to take a $15 an hour job, I'm like, I know that if you work hard enough, you're not going to be there for a long time. But you can pay someone $100,000, and if they don't have that drive, if they don't have that hunger, if they don't if they're not hungry for that power, they're going to clock in, do what they're supposed to do, and clock out. I didn't know anything about sales, but I was working with people with 20 years sales experience, and I was the number one salesperson all of a sudden. And it's like, I'm like, oh, wait, so then I can do this. And then you're hungry. So your brain is always working.
So as someone coming into this industry, new with a new set of eyes. And like you said, you worked with folks that were a number of years veteran experience, et cetera. And here you come in and you start knocking it out of the park. What do you attribute that to? How did you make that happen as an individual? I mean, obviously you worked very hard at it, but what do you attribute your success to?
Well, I had a mentor. My mentor was a really successful person, owns multiple companies, and and he always taught me, if they tell you to do, don't look for guidance. Ask them what you're supposed to do and find other angles. Always try to beat everything to the punch. And if you don't beat it to the punch, there's someone else that's grinding that'll beat you to the punch. So, they told me they want me to do cold calls. So then I was like, okay, how can I perfect this? How can we make the conversion rate more? How can I personal? So then, and then I kind of looked at it from the outside perspective. If I was getting that call as just a regular person, what would it make me not want to hang up? So it's like, because I didn't look at it like a salesperson. So that's what I said. I'm like, okay, if someone called me, if they said, blah, 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 click, like, don't come and call me and vomit on me. Like, I don't know you. It's obviously a sales call. And let's be honest.
Totally agree.
Sales call. So I said, look, this is a sales call. And you're probably going to want to hang up on me. But if you just give me 30 seconds and either you're going to have interest or you're not. And if you don't, I'm going to call you again. Or I'm going to call you every week. So it's your choice. Sometimes I would be like that honest. And you would be amazed at how many people actually never hung up on me.
I think that's great. It's such an authentic approach.
Exactly. And it's communication. You summed it up. I do the same thing. I always say when I'm on the phone, it's either a beer or coffee chat. I want to get to know you before I throw out, I got the best solution. I got the best bodies. No, you don't. Right. We all pull from the same thing. What makes us different is ourselves.
Correct.
I love that about you. So real quick, let's deep dive into what are you doing with Staffy right now? Tell us a little bit about the pros, the cons. What are you experiencing?
Well, like I said, so I learned the sales aspect of it. And then I got into this and I started working for a person that needed a lot of engineers, and he was having a hard time finding engineers. And this was my first opportunity to get into the, switching from sales to recruiting. Is I'm like, you're having a hard time and you're trying to you're trying to start people at $120,000. So I called my cousin, who was actually in Iowa engineer school, and I said, how many kids do you have that's graduating this year that want to move and make $125,000? So
a lot.
Yeah. And I'm like, how is it hard to fill in these positions? So I find that I can find candidates. And I'll be completely honest with what's new about that is finding the client side for me. And that I'm just building a database, and I'm going to do that like cold calling. I'm doing research.
So you're working your full desk. You're recruiting and doing business development.
Yeah, I'm one man show.
Love it. That's how I grew up in the business.
Yep. I'm Richard. I'm the IT. I'm the.
That's it.
I'm marketing.
You're everything, right?
Yeah.
How many jobs you got?
Yeah. On the side.
After about 5 years, we're going to be the pro at everything, right, John?
That's right.
I need to just start doing my books because I'm like bringing clients and stuff in now. And so I just actually 2 days ago bought QuickBooks. So I'm an accountant today too.
Wow.
Nice.
There you go.
And you guys, if you don't know QuickBooks, it's like for me to do one equity input, I have to watch 5 YouTube videos. It's like, okay.
It's funny you say that because I ran my own recruiting business for about 3 years. So that was my first introduction to QuickBooks. And now I use it actually I use it for my personal finances. So it is definitely, it's wonderful once you get the hang of it, but there's a little learning curve if you've never used it before. But once you get all the information in there, it makes life so much easier when you can spit out a report and see exactly where everything is.
Oh yeah. Like I put 26 entries finally in the past 2 days, and now I can see my balance sheet, my P&L. I'm like, and I was going to do this on Excel, because
Excel, no.
I know, because I'm a woman owned and all these. So for those, you have to, give them your P&Ls and balance sheets. Mm-hmm. So that's why I even got into the QuickBooks thing. And I'm like, this is way easier than Excel. Like it takes a little bit more time, but like you said, once you get it, then it's just automatic.
I love that. You know what? And that's going to just jump in our next topic. We're going to talk about John. Our main topic today is something that Merve, you're doing right now is planning and staying on task. I think that's a big thing in our industry. There's so many things coming at us at one time. Me and John been in the industry for a while now, and it's just like one thing after another. And then we got social media on top of this. So if you're a one-person show, there's a lot, isn't there, John?
There's a lot, and it's the Achilles heel of most recruiters and salespeople in general, and that's time management and organization and prioritization, which you almost have to get into a consistent habit of doing, not just to start your day with a plan, but throughout your day as you get interrupted, you've got to immediately on the spot prioritize, okay, what's more important and which direction do I have to pivot? And for a lot of people, that's overwhelming. But if you don't start the day with a plan, it's been my experience that your day is just going to consume you and you're not going to get nearly enough done. So you at least have to start the day with a plan. And then your goal is to see how much of that plan you can get through without having to juggle.
I always say, a lot of people in the side, I lost 70 pounds. And they asked me,
Yes.
how did you lose 70 pounds? And I said, I was shooting to lose 5, and it's the same thing. It's like, be sustainable. And to be sustainable, you got to make it realistic. Don't try to go from 0 to 100. Go from 0 to 10, and then 10 to 20, 20 to 30. And planning is huge. And it's so funny. The less that you do, the less that you get done. And somehow the more you do, the more you get done.
Funny how that works.
Exactly. It's funny. Well, Marvey, I just got to tell you off the bat, just losing that weight. I'm a personal trainer on the side. Yeah, Joe and I do everything. So
he's a multifaceted individual.
Something in my life is I plan my meals every day, what I'm going to eat pretty much throughout the day, unless I'm going out and cheating with my friends. But, at the end of the day, what you just did right there about losing the weight is planning. It doesn't happen overnight. You plan to hit them goals. And I think you guys agree, if we step back a little bit, Sundays is the best day to plan for your week. You're getting ready, Sunday nights, put something in concrete what you're going to do all week. What do you think, John? I mean, should you pre-plan ahead 5 days?
Well, you can pre-plan 5 days if you want. I plan daily. So okay. I might have an idea Sunday of, okay, here's some milestones that have to get accomplished this week. But then for Sunday night, I'm planning for Monday. For Tuesday, I'm planning on Monday night. For Wednesday, I'm planning on Tuesday night. So I like to plan. I plan twofold. So at the end of my work day, I will then look at my calendar for the next day and I will see what didn't I get done today that I have to get done tomorrow. And then what else is on my task for tomorrow. And I literally block out times on my calendar of when I'm going to do certain tasks. So it's one thing to make a list. Mm-hmm. Then you have to whittle that list down to what's the highest priority. And then you've got to find time in your daily calendar to say, this is when I'm going to do that function, because otherwise it's just a list. At least that's my experience. So I do it at the end of the day. And then in the morning, I'll do a quick check just to make sure that overnight nothing changed. So again, it's all that prioritization. How do you feel about that method, Marva?
I totally agree with you. And I was going to say when I do company research, I even put that in my planning. I block out an hour. Even when I do cold calls, I put it in my calendar. I block it out as well. I do think a little bit in my head on Sunday night what I'm going to do, but I don't get out of a paper and pen. And people hate Mondays. I love Mondays because Mondays is the day that I am going to draw out what my Friday
it's the foundation.
Like. Yeah. And then another thing that I like to do is having my daily goals, but then I also have the bigger milestones. What do I want to have the bigger tasks that I want to achieve, more like your bigger goals. I do that on the side too. And then I break that, I want to have, 5 clients by the end of this month and stuff like that. But I don't merge them because then it gets overwhelming. Then you don't, because if you see the check marks after every day, it's going to encourage you. But if you put all the other bigger goals that you're not going to check off, it's going to look like you didn't get a lot done.
Well, and to your point, we talked about taking baby steps. To your point earlier, everybody thinks that, I have to go to 0 to 100 in one leap. And so if you want 5 new clients at the end of a month, all right, so you whittle that down. So that's 1 new client a week. Or maybe 1.5 new clients a week, whatever it might be. So what you can do is periodically do your updates. So maybe one week you have an incredible week, you get 3 clients. Great. Now you've got 3 weeks to hit the rest of your goal or surpass it. So whittling it down to smaller items to get in the habit of doing those things and then building upon those, that can really make a big difference.
100%. It's the same as like weight loss. My weight loss goal was 2 pounds a week. You know, if I kept thinking about the 50 pounds I was going to lose, I wouldn't go back to the gym probably.
Exactly.
So it's funny. I recently read a book, and it was awesome because it reinforced and taught me some new stuff. It's called Atomic Habits. I don't know if either of you have read it.
No.
The author's name is Clear, is his last name. And it's all about looking at what that big goal is, but then whittling it down to very small habits and then just starting one habit and going there. And he mentioned something that I've been doing. So I've always been a big reader, and I like to read a certain amount of books every year. And back in the day, I would say, well, I don't have enough time to read because if I can't sit down and read a whole chapter, it's not worth sitting down and reading. So then I just said, you know what? I'm going to read 2 to 3 pages a day if I can. If I can do more, great. But I'm just going to read 2 to 3 pages a day. And before I knew it, I was banging out books.
Let me guess, you read a lot of books.
I like to read. So it was a matter of, but once I got that out of my mind that I didn't have to do that grandiose thing, and it wasn't that I got to get this book read by this date. It was just like, you know what? Let me find time. I can always find time to read 2 to 3 pages. Some days I can read more, but I can always find time to read 2 to 3 pages. So I just make that my daily goal. And if I can do more, great. But if not, I know at least I'm going to get a little bit done, and it's in progress to the ultimate goal, which, again, in this day of immediate gratification, some people aren't willing to do things like that because they just want it now. And if they can't get it right now, then they're going to give up. And so often it's those tried and true fundamental principles like hard work. And it's, we always say it's a marathon, not a sprint. If you have that mindset, you will win in the long run. Someone might do something in the short run, but they're not going to stay with it because they won't have the practices put in place.
Interesting that you said that. So remember I said I was looking, when I was looking for a job, and I was willing to work anything. I knew I had the drive, so at the same time, my friend was looking for a job that was like, he was making $150,000 a year, and he was in the medical field, and he was going to change, he had to change jobs. And I used to tell him, I'm like, just take it, because he would get offers for like 70, 75. I was like, no, my worth is a lot more than that. So at the same time, he was saying, no, I took that $15 an hour job. I was making almost closer to what he was trying to get. After 2 years, he just found a job half that price, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
There it is.
He like, at the long run, I did win but it's because people are greedy. They unfortunately, and I don't mean to sound rude, but sometimes people feel entitled,
Yes.
You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in the system. There's not one person that I found as a hard worker that didn't get a raise or a bonus. If you're passionate about what you do, if you're good at what you do, the company isn't going to want to lose you. They're going to want to keep you happy. So then you continue to make them happy. It's like people got to have that mindset, but some reason they want to.
Well, and to your point, they've got to have something you have that also Richard and I have. They've got to have passion. You've got to want to do it. If you're just there passing the time and waiting for that clock to hit whenever the last hour is, and that's what you look at your job as, then that's never going to work regardless of how much money you're making. It's, you're not going to be happy. We love the days. If you love what you're doing, the day just flies by and you never want it to stop. And it's not like work because you're enjoying it too much.
Exactly. And I'm just going to interject real quick. John seen this picture last week on LinkedIn, and I love it. It has a picture of a phone, says, pick me up.
That picture.
Love that picture, because people says, wow, I got no sales. No candidates are calling me back. Pick up the phone, right? And communicate. A lot of people just like to send emails out these days and wait for a response. You got to hit it with all different angles.
Marve, what kind of staffing do you do currently?
Right now, I'm doing healthcare. I'm doing nurses. I also work with Department of Energy and Department of Defense contractors that are actually on site doing construction, but right now it's on shutdown. And if I don't know if you got that feeling, but I don't like to sit around and wait. So that's And they're like, we know, sounds like we're going to open up in April. I'm like, April? Like what? Like I could have a whole career by then. So I found it just kind of happened, I was talking to some nurses and they were saying how they're going to look for a job. And it was like the COVID thing. All the hospitals are like looking for, I'm like, okay, this can't be obviously this obvious, right? Like, so then I started picking into the nurses. I racked up a lot of resumes. I did I didn't even have a client yet. I'm interviewing nurses, and the questions I'd have, because it was travel nurses. And one of the nurses, like, I worked with a lot of recruiters. You've obviously been doing this for a very long time. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell her it's my second day.
Never.
I would ask her a question, because you never know. Like if a client's going to give me a shot, I don't want to blow it. So I asked the nurse, I'm like, what is it going to, what is going to happen if there's a, snowstorm, and are you going to be okay to travel and get on that plane and go back to that job? What if you get homesick? Have you ever been homesick? I was asking like personal questions. I don't even know if I'm allowed to do that, but I want to see if you're going to stick, But so I'm doing a lot of nurses right now and healthcare RCNAs and stuff.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And you're doing something that I think is important, not just in healthcare, but in any field. It's important to get to know your candidates as people. And the more you get to know them, the better you're able to deliver for them and have a relationship. They're not just a resume. They're not just a fee.
No,
they're a person.
I go back to that gym thing. I wanted to differentiate myself. And John, like you hit it right on. Like I'm new, right? And I'm very open about that. But what is it going to differentiate me? Why me and not the other? I actually it's not for sure, but the Amazon Peloton, I'm in contact with them right now. So I'm going to do a deal with them where the $15 a month Peloton, where I'm going to waive that and offer to all my nurses. So when they're out in hospitals, out in, Kentucky, there might be no gym and she's willing to locate for 16 weeks. I want to make sure that when she goes home, then she's taken care of and she can do yoga. And
that's awesome.
So, that's perfect. I love that what you said, Merve, because now you got my head spinning now too with my candidates. I call them workforce family. Everybody's part of my workforce family. You're not a worker. We're all family together. But before they go for an interview, I tell them what to eat. I say, get some oatmeal blueberries. I want them to be refreshed for their day, and it's funny, but now I want to tie it into the recruiting aspect, because John knows this. In our industry, we're always on the go. We're not eating as healthy as we should be to be, on the phone and all that good stuff. So that's another thing of planning, right? You got to plan your day with food and everything like that. It all comes down to that. I got to ask you both a question. Okay, you plan your day. It's Friday, doesn't go as planned. What do you do on the next step for next week? What would you guys both do?
I'll let you go first.
I mean, it's just like, it's a good question, but it's a funny one. I'm so sorry that I keep going back to the workout thing, but it's like I hate when people say like, oh, I messed up today. I just had a cookie. I'm like, you didn't mess up the whole day. You had one cookie. Why are you going to now ruin? Okay, now you're going to have a birthday cake and a brownie after that. Like, so you messed up, or you fell out of track. Get back on the wagon. Like, it's a big track. Like, just jump back on it.
So true. So, I always tell people, myself included, do I plan every single day? No, because life happens and sometimes you just don't have time. So you make it the exception, not the rule. And you recognize that the days you don't plan are going to be a little more challenging to get through than the days that you do plan. But to your point, Richard, it's all about, you control your plan. So again, you map out your plan. I always have a mantra, and people who follow me on LinkedIn know this. It's plan your work and work your plan. So you can plan your work, but the key is, can I work my plan that I've made? And inevitably, especially in our business, we're going to get interrupted. So we're going to have gaps of time where we had things planned that we weren't able to do because of interruptions. So then we have to decide, all right, with the time left I have in my day, do I move some of that around to get it done today? But inevitably, something's going to give, and I just put it on tomorrow's plan, or I put it on the next day's plan. So your plan can help build itself, and you can't get too stressed about, okay, wow, I didn't get to that today. All right, make sure you put it on your plan for another day, and make sure that you're getting done the most important things now, not necessarily the easiest things, but the most important things in the order of their priority. So you can't get stressed out about it if you get to a point and you're like, okay, wow, I didn't get much done today. Okay, just start planning for tomorrow.
Exactly. I love how you said that. And I always say, here's my theory on it. It's like riding a surfboard. We're just riding the wave every day. Sometimes it's going to get bigger. Sometimes it's going to get lower.
I couldn't use that analogy, Richard. I have never been on a surfboard, and it wouldn't be pretty if I got on one.
Well, I can tell you, John, it took me a while to catch on, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a big high. One thing I want to talk about is staying on task. One thing that everybody's talking about these days is mental health and well-being. I mean, when you get a busy day, when is there time during the week to take a break and just relax, reflect, and get started again? What do you guys think of that?
Working from home actually has been wonders for me because of that. I make sure that I'm a worker. I work 24/7, but I make sure that in my calendar, I put 1 hour lunch break. And I leave my computer, I leave my phone, and I walk away. And going back to that Peloton app, they have 10, 15-minute yogas or 10, 15-minute HIIT workouts, whatever is in your, or like in John's, if you just want to read a book. But I do my lunch and I take 10 to 15 minutes to do what I want to do. It could be reading, it could do yoga, whatever. It really is 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so important now, especially with everyone working from home, that you remove yourself mentally for a little bit just to refresh,
Couldn't agree more. It's that whole mind, body, spirit thing. And,
yes.
Even like when I time block, I go, you're a coach, a personal trainer, Richard, you'll know this reference. So I use the CrossFit mentality. So high intense work in short periods of time.
Yes.
So, I'll block time out into 20 or 45-minute chunks. And then I'll leave some time on the back end to make myself move my eyes away from my computer screen, because your eyes will get tired if you stare at it all day and your productivity will go down. So little things like that, making sure that I'm not planning something for 3 hours at a time, because I know very well it's not going to, first of all, it's not going to be productive after the first hour. Mm-hmm. And to your point, Merve, I'm the same way. I'm very routine. Okay. I'm anal retentive about my routine. So, I make time when I get up in the morning, I'm having coffee, doing a little reading, and I'm doing a crossword every day, because that's just how I start my days. I do some sort of workout, either weights or a walk. I start my day. I might, depending on what I'm doing, I might eat lunch in front of my computer. I try not to, because again, I believe in that break. I think you've got to force yourself to balance, because if you don't, that's what's causing a lot of anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Because the work. Oh, the home is now the office. There's no separation. So you have to find that separation. So I like what you do as far as allowing yourself that time. It's very important.
I love how you said turn that on and off, John. My theory, you're going to love this. I'm dating myself. IROC Z is what I call it. The IROC Z theory. I'm blasting through for 2 hours, and then I put it in like cruise control, right? And then you blast again. And I think sometimes that really works, because when you go full steam ahead all the time, you're going to wear out.
Yeah.
You got to have time to just reflect on what you did. And if somebody doesn't answer the phone, or somebody says they're not interested, just go to the next one. You never had it anyway, right? So that's Correct. What I always say. Don't look in the mirror and say, wow, I can't do this. Just keep saying, I got to do it.
And that's like with the phone calls, especially for recruiters that has to do a lot of, sales approach. And I think that's why I became so good. It just comes natural to me. I don't take it personally. I was actually surprised how many people didn't hang up on me, because it's like, I just think about how many sales calls I get, but I have fun with it. Like, you get to be an actress. You get to be anyone you want for that 30 seconds. Like, make it fun, like one time I remember I called this, the gatekeeper answered. I was trying to get through someone, and oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rossner will not be taking solicitation calls today. I'm like, I understand, Bridget. Would he be taking it tomorrow? Like, he's not going to, just have fun with it,
And by the way, do you have his email before you get off the phone, right? Boom, and then hit him with an email too, of something comical. Or I love how we all do this stuff. And I think that's the big thing. We all have templates to go by, but I don't know about you, John and Merve, but I don't believe in a template all the time. I feel like sometimes you got to have bullet points, but you got to be yourself in your voice and tone.
Well, because that's who they're going to work with. Regardless of who you work for or who you work with, they're going to choose to work with you because of you. So be you. And so I've had, I'm a big kid at heart. So there have been plenty of phone calls where, I subscribe to the "gotta have fun" philosophy, and I said some stuff that sounded pretty silly and stupid and whatever. I'm like, all right, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to hang up on me. So what? So I move on. It's you got to have fun with it, and you got to enjoy what you're doing. If, to your point, if you just get too routine, you're focused on, I've only got to do it this way and I've got to stay within these bounds, it gets boring and it gets robotic, and that's not going to, that's not going to be as genuine.
The other person on the line can hear it too. Like you would be amazing. I've gotten Forbes 500 companies on the phone, and the guy's like, I would never even take this call, but like, I can't believe I'm already listening to this just because like I can hear your excitement, like a lot of people have said that. And it really, when you become robotic, the other person hears it, and they're just, it's hang up. And if you have fun, I can promise you that your hang up rate is not going to go any lower. Like that's the
I totally agree with that, Merve. You know what's funny? You're just reading my mind now is excitement and energy. We are the Disney World of jobs. And even with like candidates, when you get them on the phone, they probably don't have a job. They're probably sad. You never know what's going in their mind. So you're that uplift for the day, right? I always say that. And if you get on the phone, and I've seen recruiters before argue with, clients and candidates. Let's not argue. Just let's all get along. If it doesn't work out, there's a reason why. We move on.
Yep.
And I think our tone is one of the biggest things around. When I get on the phone, it's like we're hitting a switch, right, John? And we're just like, boom, dynamite.
You got to be on all the time. But, for all of us and many more like us, it doesn't take a lot to turn that switch on. I mean, it's natural. It comes naturally. And I've always said, you've also give the person on the other end permission to say no. Like, it's like, it's okay. If you're not interested, that's fine. I'm not calling to make a sale. I'm calling to see if we can work together and if this can be a mutually beneficial relationship here that we can form. But if not, that's okay. Because a lot of times people put up that defense wall because they just don't want to say no.
Oh, I take that approach. And that's the same as like when I first call, I always ask permission. Can I have 30 seconds? And then if you don't like it, I won't call you again, and at the end, and if they agree to book an appointment with me in the beginning of my appointment, I say, especially when I was working for a company, I said, my dad didn't invent this, so I'm not going to take offensive. If you don't like it, it's okay for you to tell me no, and
exactly.
Right, you can see them completely relaxed. Like, and it's true. I'm not going to be able to use that line because it's my company now, but.
And I'm going to put up with this. Rejection is part of our industry, recruiting and rejection, R&R. That's
Absolutely.
my initials, right? Richard Rosner, R&R, recruiter and rejection. But no, I think in our whole life, I mean, Merve, we'll go back to fitness real quick. I mean, I did bodybuilding shows. You know what? When I first said I was going to do one, everybody laughed at me. But you know what? 10 years later, I got my trophy. So you know what? It's that Rocky Balboa thing, right? When somebody rejects you, you just push it off and keep in its lane.
If you want to do something bad enough, you figure out a way to carve a path to get there. And that's what you did. That's what we've all, if you don't want it bad enough, you'll never get there. But if you want bad enough, you'll figure out a way to how to get there.
I agree. And I say this to everyone. Like my ex-husband, he always would tell me that I can't do anything. I can't do anything. Okay. And I have my diploma now. Like after I left him about 2 years ago. I've graduated already. I got my career already. I got my business already. So, and I lost 70 pounds.
You had a busy 2 years.
Holy cow.
But
hey, John, she used the IROC approach the whole 2 years, right?
It goes back to planning. If you want it bad enough, and it goes, John, like I forgot to mention this when you were talking about when you say like we don't have time. We actually do have the time. It's we don't prioritize. If people open their phones right now, especially young, not maybe not you, John, but especially young females, they probably spend 2 to 3 hours if you combined how many times they open up their social media. That is
Easily.
a
Yeah.
lot of time. Like and don't forget, I'm a single mom with 2 kids. I had to be a homeschool teacher as well in that time. But I did my work this morning, and then from 10 p.m. to 12 p.m., that was my school time. My homework would get done at that time. But if you plan and if you want it bad enough, you can do it. I couldn't even do 2 push-ups. Like, but it's like, and you know what started me, by the way, is that I would go to the gym. I went to a really nice boxing gym, and I would see all these guys jumping ropes like nothing. And I couldn't even do 20 seconds without tripping on it. And I'm like, and then my trainer would just be like, just try to do what you can. And then a couple weeks later, I had my trainer yell at me, time. And that's what he would yell to the boxers, time. That means your 5 minutes is up on and start hitting, And he's like, time. And I'm like, what is he? He's like, Marvin, time, put the rope down. I'm like, I did 5 minutes. What? Time? But it's crazy because when I first did it, I truly believed that I could never pass that 20 seconds,
But you chipped away at it, which is
Yes.
something everybody can follow your lead on. Again, it's that, okay, you're not going to go 5 minutes on the first time, but okay, so do what you can. And then each time you do it, try and do a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more. Awesome. Wow. Hey, well, we got into a lot of fitness stuff today. I think we should call this. And No Limits is actually a fitness brand, John. So we tied this all together. So, you know what, John, final thoughts before we wrap things up, buddy. I know you always have some great thoughts for everybody out there for the week. So,
it's all about, when we talk about planning, Richard and Marve, and it's been great talking with you, Marve. I've enjoyed having you on the show. When we talk about planning, you don't have control over a lot in life, but you do have control over your time. So determine what's the best use of your time throughout your entire day, and always check yourself. Is what I'm doing now the best use of my time for whatever you're in motion to do? As long as you do that, you stay focused, you'll achieve the goals you want to achieve.
There it is. Well said. Merve, any final thoughts for you, Miss Energetic?
Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, it was my first show, and I love you guys. Were great talking to you. I forget that we're even live. It's like a very smooth conversation. But John, I agree. People, I say, get out of your emotional state. When I was going through divorce, it was a 2-year battle. If I just sat there and waited for that 2 year to pass by and not build myself, I would have lost 2 years, But what I did is like, that's already going, and I can't control that. So what can I do to me that I can control while something is happening, And by the time I got divorced, I was already lined up because I didn't just wait for the time to pass. So just push forward, and get on the things that you can control and just go with it. What else? What's the worst thing that can happen is what I say,
Right.
Got nothing to lose. Well, I want to thank everybody. Of course, John, we'll see you next week. Merve, for being a great guest here. We'll have you back on another show. I'm excited for your venture. And like I always say, you're all part of my family. You're part of my family now too, Merve. So, you always reach out anytime you want. And we're going to leave it on that note. Remember, everybody, no limits. Get out there and do it this week. Plan and stay on task. And if you need to reach out to somebody, we're here for you. Right, John?
There you go.
Hey, take care, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye,
Take care.
guys.